Back to school is an exciting time. New teachers and new friends. It's also about packing backpacks. I wonder what you'll be putting in their backpack this year. For me, I'll be thinking about my kids as I send them off to school. And I'll be thinking about one thing: Aurora, Colorado. Our nation, for that matter the world, was stunned in July when a lone gunman went into a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, killed 12 people, and injured over 50 people. There are so many questions that abound in our minds. Why did he do it? Why did he choose a theater? What were parents doing there with their young children at a midnight premiere? We're packing our children's lunchboxes, but what we really have to think is what we're putting in those lunchboxes. Let's take it a step above that. What are we putting into their souls, into their minds, and into their hearts? Let's look at that. We need to be filling our kids with God's love, with God's peace, with God's ability to discern right from wrong. It's almost prophetic when you think about it, how OCN ran programs on violence during the month of July. And here we are now in August, beginning to prepare to send our kids back to school. We're going to have to talk about these issues. What's really stunning to me is that we're actually surprised when these incredible acts happen. Now, don't get me wrong. As a young child, I remember going through the woods with my friends, and we'd have those fake guns that they gave us. They were made of wood. And we'd go and we'd shoot and we'd jump and we'd go behind trees and under berms. But they were never real bullets. Contrast that to today. Violent video games, incredible violence, bloodshed in movie theaters, and of course, the huge amount of guns that are now available on the street. That is very different from the way you and I grew up. And I have to wonder to myself, when are we going to get the message that the amount of guns that are out there, guns that were meant for war front, are now being used on the streets? Our kids are dying. And when are we going to wake up? When are we going to see that we have to pull back from this violence that is out there today? We glorify violence in so many ways in our culture. In the news, if it bleeds, it leads. We cannot shield our children from all violence. We know this. But we can do what's right. We can teach them right from wrong. We can take the steps as parents, as elders, to line up those footsteps that they can follow in order to lead good lives of integrity. We can teach our children about perseverance. We can teach our children about strength. We can teach our children that not everything is going to go the way they want it to go, but that with the help of God, they can succeed. We can teach them that every life is precious in the eyes of God. As Christians, we believe that Christ rose from the dead. For many who don't believe, Christ's tomb being empty means the end of the line. But for those of us who believe in the resurrection, we know it's the beginning of new life. There is something in all of this that cannot be destroyed, and that is the love of God for each and every one of us. Remember what we said before, that every soul is precious in the eyes of God. The tomb may be empty, but that doesn't mean that God has left us. He's still with us. And you can, of course, ask the question, where was God in the theater in Aurora, Colorado? I'll tell you where he was. He was there taking each of the souls of the young and older people that perished immediately into heaven. He was also there and is there now, taking care of the people who are in the hospitals and giving the wisdom and the knowledge to the doctors and the nurses to help these people come back to a full existence once again. Some people today want us to think that life is meaningless, that life is absurd. It's not. Life is real. Life is beautiful. Life is a gift from God. There are a few things I want you to remember. The first is that goodness abounds. Now you can say to me, Father, with all that's in the news, with all the evil things that we see, there is actually good happening in the world? I'm here to tell you, yes, there is. The parents who work night and day to raise their children, working at the kitchen table on their homework, tucking them in bed at night, reading them stories. What about the grandparents? And what about the single parents? How about the doctors the nurses, the priests who help people every day in their parishes. This is where goodness abounds, and we don't hear very much about it. The second thing I want you to remember is that moral education is important. Sunday school, the study of Scripture, going to church youth groups are important. Some parents will come to me in church and they'll say, "You know, Father, Jimmy couldn't come to church this week because he's tired. He was studying hard. He was at soccer practice." And I ask them, is that really what's happening? My dear friends, a lot of these are excuses that we use. And then later on, when we wonder why our children are going through such rough times, and we haven't given them the moral basis that comes from the church teaching, we ask, why can't they deal with their marriages that are having trouble? Why can't they find direction in their lives? I point back to the original, that we have to look at the foundation. If the foundation is morally sound, the tree will then be sound. You see, we have to treat religion as more than just a hobby. So what Christian values are you sending your children to school with? Because in secular society, your religious values are not welcome. What you teach your children at home, in church about God and about morality, is what will remain with them for the rest of their life. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.